Email marketing magician. Introduction. Have you ever seen those headlines or comments on websites and in newspapers that start with "I wish I had $1 for every time that blah, blah, blah"? If you have, then you probably understand that this phrase is generally used as a way of suggesting that the writer or commentator has heard a particular phrase or saying so many times that they are fed up hearing it, and that moreover they do not agree with it. Well, because I enjoy a good game as much as the next person and don't want to be left out, here is my contribution to the genre. I wish I had $1 for every time that I have heard that email marketing is dead. This is a phrase that has been increasingly bandied about the online business marketplace for the last year too, and yet it is no more true now than it was when the notion was first raised. The fact is, email marketing is still very much alive and kicking, still one of the most effective ways of building your business in a way that is both effective and efficient. What cannot, however, be denied is that the nature of email marketing has changed over the past year or two, and is likely to continue to change in the future. As any experienced online marketer understands, email marketing is just one aspect of promoting and developing your business, and it does not exist in a vacuum, completely detached from everything else. Hence, it follows that developments in other areas of online marketing are affecting the way you should use email as a marketing and business development tool. Indeed, it cannot be denied that the very nature of the internet has changed beyond all recognition over the past few years, and those changes have had a profound effect on how you should use email to market your business most effectively. This report is focused on what you need to do and the changes that you might need to make in order to be able to use email marketing most effectively and profitably in the current marketplace. However, before moving on to start looking at marketing and promoting using email, let us start by considering the basic concepts of email marketing. What is email marketing? The idea of email marketing is that in the first instance, you have a product or service that you want to sell or promote on the internet. In order to do so, you must have an effective way of putting your promotional materials or ideas in front of potential prospects, because you have to be able to tell people who might be interested in what you have to offer that you exist. More important than putting your promotional message in front of people who may become a prospect, however, is the concept that you should put your message in front of people who are already targeted. In other words, if you are promoting weight loss products, then it makes sense to put your marketing message in front of people who you know are already interested in losing weight. If, on the other hand, you are selling something related to tropical fish, your message needs to be seen by the tropical fish community. By ensuring that your marketing message is seen by net users who are already pre-qualified, because they are interested in your topic of subject matter, you ensure that your message has the maximum effect. Imagine, however, if your weight loss information was put in front of tropical fish lovers, or vice versa. In this situation, it should be obvious that the favorable response you could expect would be absolutely minimal or non-existent. Thus, this is an extreme example of how not to market. There are plenty of different strategies that you can adopt to put your initial marketing message in front of your targeted audience. And because doing so will often be an extremely important aspect of any integrated email marketing project that you decide to run, we will give some consideration to a few of these marketing methods a little later. However, the basic idea behind the email marketing is that at some point and in some way, you obtain email contact information from someone who is a pre-qualified or targeted prospect. At that point, You start to send that targeted prospect information about your product or services, in the hope that either sooner or later, that prospect will decide that the product or service that you are recommending is something that they have to have. Obviously, once they decide that they want or need to buy whatever it is you're recommending, they become a customer of your business, an individual money-making center to whom you can return time and again with further product recommendations and suggestions. This, in a nutshell, is the central core of email marketing and the concepts behind it. You have an individual's email information. You send details of products or services that you recommend, and at some point, a certain percentage of the people to whom you are sending that information will decide to follow your suggestion and spend money with your business. If this summarization makes the concept of email marketing sound extremely simple, that is a good thing, because email marketing is essentially a very simple thing. On the other hand, if it was really just the simple, then it would be very difficult to understand why so many marketers seem to get email marketing so tragically wrong. And the fact that they do so is the reason why you are reading this book in the first place. The truth is, there are many mistakes, pitfalls, and errors that you can make whilst trying to build an email marketing business. I will address these potential marketing landmines at the appropriate juncture as we go through this report. But to start, I want to look at a common mistake that almost every email marketing beginner makes at some time or other: adding prospects to your mailing list the wrong way. Spam is the email marketer's #1 enemy. When you start to build an email marketing business, what you do is compile a mailing list. This is a list of email addresses and names of prospects to whom you can send information about your product or service. From this description, it should be evident that an important part of building your email marketing business is finding people who you can add to your mailing list. As you will read a little later, there is a correct way of adding new prospects to your mailing list. Unfortunately, there are also several wrong ways of doing so. Most importantly, it is absolutely critical that you avoid falling into any of these most common traps, because doing so can literally destroy your business and even your life in one fell swoop. As you are reading this book, you're obviously a regular internet user. You therefore undoubtedly use email yourself, most probably 2 or 3 times every day. I am not therefore telling you anything of which you are not already aware by suggesting that the biggest threat to the effectiveness of email, and therefore email marketing, is spam. At a conservative estimate, I would guess that for every valid, valuable, and informative email that arrives in my inbox every day, there are at least 2 or 3 spam emails that have absolutely no value whatsoever, and I imagine that you are not a great deal different. It is for this reason that there are anti-spam laws, such as the Can-Spam Act of 2003, and that criminal prosecutions for those found guilty of sending mass spam email are on the increase. This is not particularly surprising, because spam email is no longer just a nuisance or annoyance with more and more deadly computer viruses and malware programs being delivered as a special bonus with the spam that arrives in your inbox. Furthermore, a legal clampdown on spam is to be welcomed, because it is not too ridiculous to suggest that without it, email as a viable communication tool may cease to exist in the next decade or so, as it is finally swamped by the tidal wave of spam mail. So, as someone who is either using or planning to use email as a method of marketing and business, what should this tell you? The obvious answer to the question is, don't spam, because if you do and you get caught, you could spend several years behind bars. Assuming that this is not something that you particularly want to do, avoiding sending spam email is an absolute 100% essential. Unfortunately, whilst this might sound very clear-cut and concise in theory, the practical side of sending spam email is not always so easy to draw a clear, precise boundary around. Sometimes, spamming is obvious. As you'll probably have noticed from your own email inbox, there are certain products and services that are almost invariably promoted using spam email tactics. Every day, you probably already receive dozens of email messages from people you have never heard of recommending pornography and other adult entertainment-related websites, cheap pharmaceuticals, copy watches and jewelry, and so on. Then there are those messages which invite you to some distant country or other where you can collect your share of some deceased luminaries, estate simply for helping out the widow, son, daughter, neighbor, cat, or favorite soccer team of the sadly departed individual concerned. All of these messages are absolutely 100%. No question about it, spam. The people behind these campaigns are using incredibly powerful software, which goes out onto the internet each and every day to harvest email addresses from thousands of websites, after which each of these email addresses is added to their spam mailing list. Consequently, it is almost a given that as soon as you have an email address that is more than a few days old, you will start receiving this kind of spam message because their harvester has found you. Assuming that you're not interested in reading these messages, there are a few basic rules that you must follow in order to protect the viability of your own email address and system. Firstly, if you don't know who the message is from, do not be tempted to open it, especially if it has any attachment. Secondly, do not be tempted to reply to the sender, even if you are telling them to remove your name from their list and threatening legal action if they do not do so. All you have done is prove that you are a real person and that you pay some attention to the mail that they are sending to you. The software that spammers use to collect email addresses is readily commercially available and often sold by people who will happily tell you that. No, sending email to people whose name you have collected using the software is definitely not spam email. Yes, using the software allows you to create an email list in double quick time, and yes, everything you're doing by using this software is completely legal and above board. Tempting as it may be to listen to the second of these assertions, it is true, after all. Unfortunately, the other two assertions are complete nonsense. Whilst using software to harvest other people's email address is not illegal in itself, sending email to those people certainly is. You should never for one single moment consider using spam as a part of your business marketing activities, for a couple of reasons. In the first place, and as I hope you will have gathered by now, using spam could get you into an awful lot of trouble, and it is not going to be that easy to develop your online business from behind bars. However, secondly, and probably more importantly, spam does not work. Ask yourself, how many times have you knowingly opened a spam email message because you are actually interested in the contents? Maybe in the early days, a few years ago, the answer might have been once or twice, but I would be confident that you haven't done so for an awful long time. Once again, if my own experience is anything to go by, you probably delete everything that you were not expecting and any email messages from someone that you do not recognize. In short, buying software to harvest emails and then sending those people information about your product or service is going to land no business whatsoever. However, it could land you in a court of law because, trust me, There are some people out there who spend their whole life doing little other than reporting suspected spam email to the authorities, and sometimes it's not. If you are fairly new to the idea of creating a mailing list as a central business building concept, then you have probably seen many prominent marketers and online business experts quote the cliché that the money is in the list. Whilst I would not wholeheartedly agree with this, as you will see later, I would suggest that this tells only part of the story. Nevertheless, the basic concept of this is true. If you can add names to your email marketing list, you have the ability to send those people information about your products or services. Some of those people will buy, hence the money is in the list. Knowing this, it is undoubtedly tempting to shortcut the process of adding names to your list, and there are a few ways of doing this. One such way is using harvesting software as highlighted in the previous section, but you already understand the dangers of this approach. Another option is to buy a mailing list from a mailing list broker, which might seem to be a far more attractive alternative because the broker concerned will undoubtedly stress that there is little danger in buying and using a mailing list from them. On the face of it, this would appear to be a very attractive option. Many mailing list brokers will create dozens of different lists, all of which are focused on an individual market sector or niche. For example, they might have a weight loss related emailing list, a dog training related list, and so on. Furthermore, most emailing list of brokers do collect email information using strategies that are at least reasonably ethical. But there are varying degrees of what is and what is not ethical, and they will almost certainly have confirmed with the list member that they are happy to receive information. However, this is the critical factor that you cannot afford to ignore. The individual in question who has added their name to the mailing list has added their name to the broker's mailing list, not yours. Furthermore, they have agreed to receive information, but whose information is it that they have agreed to accept? Correct, the broker's, not yours. Hence, when the broker who is trying to sell you a mailing list announces that the names on that list are verified and have agreed to receive information, they are telling the truth. However, from your point of view, it is not the whole truth, because the individual has agreed to receive nothing from you. But let's imagine that you decided to buy mailing list of this nature. The price of the email address mailing list that you are looking at is likely to be extremely reasonable for the number of leads you are provided with. Thus, you might think that it is worth trying, and that just 2 or 3 new customers will be more than enough to cover your costs, after which every else represents profits. This is sound thinking, apart from one thing. Even using the best outgoing email management software, you're still going to spend an inordinate amount of time sending out this many email messages. And I would be willing to bet that you will get no positive responses and generate no sales from this mass mailing campaign whatsoever. Added to this, you will probably find that your internet service provider gets very upset if you use their service to send this many outgoing email messages, because there is a very good chance that their servers might get blacklisted. This happens because an outgoing email campaign of this size screams spam. Hence, their server is blacklisted for supporting a supposed spammer, which your ISP definitely does not want or need. But the trouble does not end there, because although you have bought this mailing list in good faith, you are nevertheless sending email messages to people who have never heard of you or your products. They have never agreed to be on your mailing list, nor have they consented to receiving your information. So guess what happens? Bang on the nail, you don't get any business whatsoever, but you do get landed with 100 200, or 500 spam complaints. Many of these people will complain to all and sundry, including your ISB. Anyone who is associated with a product or service you are promoting, and possibly the local police and trading standards authorities as well. Hence, your ISB closes your account. The people whose product you have been promoting for years cut you off, and there is a very heavy knock on your front door. So, have you really spammed these people? The answer is probably not in the strictest technical sense, but they might have very good grounds for arguing that you have. More importantly, all of that time, effort, and money that you have sunk into this campaign is completely wasted because you haven't made one single dollar from your efforts. So, the moral of the story is, do not spam and do not even think about short-cutting your business-building efforts by buying a mailing list off someone else. Irrespective of how honest, legal, and decent they might seem, using someone else's mailing list is a recipe for disaster, not a recipe for making money. Adding prospects to your mailing list the right way, perhaps from understanding what you shouldn't do, might already be forming an idea about what you should. However, in this chapter, I am going to expand upon the correct way of building a list of prospects to whom you can market using email. The first thing is that you have to build the email marketing list yourself. You have to put yourself in a position where you can invite people to subscribe to your mailing list and have them do so entirely voluntarily. The most common way of doing this is to present a subscription form on the pages of your business-enabled website from where your visitors can subscribe to your list. Alternatively, you might have a special page on your site which does nothing other than invite subscriptions in this way. Once people voluntarily subscribe to your list and confirm their desire to do so, you are truly beginning to build your business. Let us therefore look at how this is done, step by step. Automation is necessary straight out of the box. The basic central concept of marketing using email is that once someone voluntarily joins your mailing list, they have given their permission to send them information as often as you want to. This is a fantastic opportunity to present information to this subscriber on a regular basis. Because it is a widely accepted fact within the online marketing community that in order to persuade people to buy your product or service, it is necessary to present the idea to them something between 7 and 20 times. Hence, if someone chooses to subscribe to your list and you decide to send only 1 or 2 messages, you are going to enjoy very limited sales success from what is a very limited amount of effort. It is far more powerful, and it will ultimately be far more successful to send a constant stream of email messages to this prospect, in which you recommend products and services relevant to the subject in which you know they are interested. For instance, if you have a tropical fish website and someone subscribes to your mailing list through that site, you immediately know that this individual is interested in matters pertaining to tropical fish. Hence, you would send them a constant stream of tropical fish-related recommendations and suggestions, because at some point, it is likely that they will accept your advice and spend money with you. Once someone has given you their permission to send them information, you can send whatever you want as often as you like, with the frequency of your messages being entirely up to you. There is no generally agreed format for how often you should send information, with some extremely successful marketers believing that you should send 2 or 3 mail messages every day, whilst others, the majority, tend to send the same number every week. But irrespective of how often you choose to send mail messages to your list members, the most important point is consistency. If you start off by sending 2 or 3 messages every day, then you have to continue to do so And the same applies if this is the number of messages you send weekly. For the purposes of an illustration, let's assume that you're going to send an email to your prospects every 3 days. When you first start your email list building efforts, sending an email to your prospects every 3 days is not going to cause a great deal of problems because you have no one on your list. When you have only 3 or 4 list members, it should not be particularly difficult keeping track of where each individual is in the outgoing mail sequence. But as soon as you start building a reasonable head of steam so that you have a handful of members subscribing to your list every day, then it will very quickly become entirely unmanageable if you're trying to do the whole thing manually. From the beginning, it is therefore essential that you automate your mailing list building efforts with a tool or resource known as an autoresponder. The basic dictionary definition of an autoresponder is that it is a software program that answers your email for you. And whilst it is true in online marketing terms, it is more of a central management tool. For example, a little further down the line, you could have 1,000, 2,000, or even 10,000 names on your prospect mailing list, and every one of those individuals will have joined your list at a completely different time. Hence, every one of those individuals is at a different stage of the outgoing email sequence, but your autoresponder can handle this without any problems. You must automate from the beginning by having an autoresponder. We will analyze autoresponders in a little more detail later. But for now, all you need to know is how you set this autoresponder up in the beginning. The first thing that you need to do is create your outgoing email message sequence. How long into the future you choose to do this for is your own decision. But I would recommend that you have at least the first 3 or 4 months' email messages written before you launch your list building activities. These messages are then loaded into your autoresponder account so that they are automatically delivered to anyone who chooses to subscribe to your mailing list with no further input from you. You then use the autoresponder to create the subscription form, which you will copy and paste onto your website. This subscription form is automatically linked to your autoresponder account, so that when anyone chooses to add their email address and name to your form before hitting the subscribe button, that action automatically sends the information to your autoresponder, not to your standard email account. Because of this, the autoresponder is now in a position to take over by sending the first email message to this new subscriber, with subsequent outgoing emails already loaded and ready to be mailed to their inbox on autopilot. Adding a subscription form to your site, as suggested in the previous section, it is most common to use your autoresponder account to generate a snippet of HTML or JavaScript code, which you copy and paste onto your own web pages as appropriate. Doing so creates the subscription form, which a visitor to your site has to complete in order to add their name to your prospect mailing list. Exactly how you add this form to your site will, to a certain extent, depend upon exactly what kind of site it is. For example, many people make a reasonable online income by creating information websites that feature paid advertising. When a visitor comes to that site, they are not interested in buying any product or service because there is no product or service available to buy. However, if they click on any of the adverts on any page of the site, this makes money for the site owner in question. With a site of this nature, it is very common to see webmasters who include a mailing list subscription form on every page, often featuring this subscription form at the top left-hand corner of the page, which is statistically the first place most net users look on any given web page. In this scenario, the attempt to entice someone to subscribe to your mailing list is likely to be fairly low-key and more softly than it might otherwise be. If someone chooses to add their name to your mailing list, then it presents you with an opportunity to start making product suggestions and recommendations. However, even if they do not subscribe, you can still make money every time they click on an advert. On the other hand, if you do have something for sale, then that is your primary source of income, given that people have to be presented with your product offer somewhere between 7 and 20 times before they finally make the decision to purchase. It is far more important for you to grab someone's email information in this situation. Consequently, it is likely that you would have a page on your site known as a landing or squeeze page, which is designed to do nothing other than collect email information. There will be little on the page other than the subscription form, and some written content focused on encouraging the visitor to subscribe. And of course, there may be situations where you would include both types of subscription form on your site. You might have information pages where the subscription form is added at the top corner of the page, as well as a landing page, which is 100% focused on generating new prospect list members. Targeted traffic is the key. With your autoresponder-driven automation system in place and a subscription form on all of the relevant pages on your site, you are ready to start adding new prospects to your mailing list. In order to do so, you have to start sending pre-qualified, targeted traffic to the appropriate pages of your site as suggested earlier. The art or science of driving targeted traffic to a website is a topic in itself, one which would justify a book 2 or 3 times the length of this one on its own. There are literally hundreds of different ways of sending targeted traffic to a site, ranging from using paid advertising such as Google AdWords, writing articles for free submission to directories like Ezine articles, creating videos for submission to YouTube too, sending information to social networking sites like Dig, Stumble Upon, and so on. Fortunately, there are also dozens of websites where you can pick up all of the traffic generation ideas, strategies, and tactics that you could ever need, and the majority of them are providing this information for free. Try searching Google for any of these phrases driving web traffic: targeted traffic to website, targeted traffic forum, free traffic generation methods, or something of this nature, and you will quickly discover that there is no shortage of information available. When focused on generating targeted traffic, it would be most common for list-building purposes to send as many of those visitors as possible to your landing page, a page which is designed to do nothing other than collect your visitors' email information. Effective landing pages need a bribe. The more effective you can make your landing page, the more people you will be able to convince to sign up for your mailing list. From this, it naturally follows that the more people there are who sign up for your list, the quicker your business and your profit levels will grow. There are lots of different ways that you can create effective landing pages, but the essence of most of these pages, as used by mailing list builders, is generally pretty similar. This revolves around the concept of offering the visitor who is presented with your landing page a powerful reason for subscribing to your list. In times gone by, even as recently as a couple of years ago, if you offered the visitor a free subscription to your weekly or monthly newsletter, it would often be sufficient to convince them to sign up for your mailing list. Unfortunately, however, those days are long gone. Nowadays, it is almost a given that you have to offer the visitor who comes to your landing page a free gift or bribe that obviously has sufficient perceived value to overcome their reluctance to give you their email information. This will often be some kind of short report that discloses hidden secrets or insider tips about the topic that brought that visitor to the landing page in the first place. In other words, if it is a landing page on online dating site, then the free gift might be a special report specifically targeted at those who are looking for online dating information. The important point about this bribe is the value or attractiveness has to be strong enough to overcome the visitor's reluctance to give you their email information during the subscription process. We have already seen that spam is an ever-increasing problem for all of us, and the visitor to your landing page is no exception to this rule. Consequently, it is natural for them to be a little reluctant to provide their email information unless you give them something that is persuasive enough to overcome their reticence. Fortunately, creating a product of this nature is remarkably easy. A job that can be done in less than an hour using entirely free resources. Firstly, visit a free article directly site like Ezine Articles to search the site for information that is appropriate to your subject matter. Assuming that we are to continue with the tropical fish example, this is the term that you would search. Have a look at a few of the articles to find a dozen or so that are likely to be of interest to anyone who is passionate about tropical fish. When you find articles that you think are appropriate, click on the Ezine Publisher link at the top right-hand side of the page next to the title. This enables you to download the article in question, and as long as you include the original author's information, you can republish this article in any way you like. With a dozen or so similar articles, you're going to create a short report by collecting them together, adding a 1 or 2 page introduction that you write yourself, which includes your contact information and website URL, before publishing the whole thing as a PDF document. Write your short introduction, and then add each individual article to the same Word document. Make sure that each article begins on a new page, and that you are including the original author's information with every individual article. If you can find an appropriate royalty-free image, add this to the title page together with the title and the URL of your site. Once again, before using a free PDF creation program like PDF 995 to bring the whole thing together in a professional PDF document, you now have a unique free report to give away to all of you visitors in return for their subscription information. This would be added to your website, and the link to the download page would then be included in the first outgoing message which your autoresponder would send to your new subscriber. Let us therefore look at effective landing pages in a little more detail by considering the type of landing page which you might create. Different types of landing pages. In terms of collecting email information for online marketing purposes, it is most common for the majority of businesses to use either a text-only landing page or one that features a video message plus text. Whichever option you choose and what will be most effective for your own business is going to be dictated by the kind of business you are running, the market you operate in, and so on. There is one essential thing to understand about your landing page. It is designed to do one job and one job only, and that is collect email information from your visitor. You should not therefore be tempted to add advertising materials that might add a few cents to your bank account if someone clicks on them. This is a distraction, and it offers your visitor an alternative to subscribing to your mailing list. You do not want to offer alternatives in this way. Your visitor must be presented with only one choice: they either subscribe to the list, or they close your page without doing so. Hence, you do not want any other kind of distraction on your landing page either. If you are using a video landing page, then obviously you need to include a video, but other than that, Keep the page as plain and simple as possible. Do not add unnecessary graphics, moving images, or anything else that is likely to distract the visitor from what you want them to do. Whilst this might stymie your more creative urges, having an extremely plain, ordinary-looking landing page will do no harm to your business whatsoever. In fact, take a look at the landing page used by one of the most successful online dating sites. For men, to get some idea of how successful a plain, black text on white background landing page can be. This company did not reach the apex of the ultra-competitive online dating business because they did not know how to create successful landing pages, as proved by the fact that they have continued to use this page for the last year or two, whilst their profits have skyrocketed. The message on this landing page is extremely powerful, as it immediately tells any man who arrives on it exactly what benefits they are going to receive for subscribing. I would guess that all of the bullet points listed on this page hit the right notes for most men who are interested in online dating, which is why it is no surprise that this particular landing page continues to be a phenomenal success. Alternatively, you could use a video-enabled landing page like this one. As you would probably expect when using a video landing page, the majority of the pitch for the free gift that you are giving away in order to convince your visitor to sign up is contained in the video itself. Consequently, the video contains all of the most important information, such as what they will discover in the special report that they can get free from you, why they should do so, and the call to action that instructs them to add their email information to the form opposite. However, also note that there is some written content on a page, which is important if this is a page that you want search engines to index and rank in their results. Search engines cannot see information that is contained within a video, so if there is no text on the page, it to all intents and purposes appears as if there is nothing on this page as far as the search engines are concerned, even though there might be a video or even several videos. As suggested earlier, there is no specific format for landing pages that works out better than any other. So it really is a question of testing various different types of landing pages to establish what works best in your market. Whilst there is no doubt that video landing pages are becoming increasingly popular, they are a little more complex to set up and use, and there is no guarantee that video is going to work best for you. So, you should try testing videos against text-only landing pages to establish what is most effective in your business. Once you have done this, the next step is to start changing the text on your page to see if you can improve the effectiveness of your message. Irrespective of whether that text is on a standalone, text-only page or accompanying your video. One final test that you might want to try is instead of asking your visitors for their name and email information, ask them for their email information only. After all, there is no real purpose in knowing their name. You are only ever likely to communicate with them via email. So their name is something of an irrelevance, whereas in testing, it does seem that asking only for the email information is likely to attract more subscribers. I am guessing that this is because asking for only one piece of information rather than two cuts down the effort required to subscribe by half. And because you do not ask for their name, you allow your visitor to retain a higher degree of anonymity if they subscribe. From what I have seen so far, this strategy seems to work in terms of increasing subscribers from a landing page that is otherwise exactly the same. One with 2 subscription boxes, one with only 1. So it is definitely something that I would recommend you try, making sure that your email information collection works. Whichever way you have gone about it, You now have your mailing list subscription form pasted on your website, and you have put an action plan in place that is driving targeted visitors to the appropriate sign-up pages. The next thing you need to do is make sure that the mechanics of your list building system are set up in the most efficient way, which starts with making sure that you are using a top-level autoresponder system. What autoresponder should you use? The first choice that you have to make when considering which autoresponder system is most likely to be the most efficient and therefore profitable for your business is whether to buy autoresponder software or to use a web-based online system. The obvious attraction of buying software that you can then run from your own desktop or from the server of your web hosting account is that once you have bought the software, that is your expenditure complete. Apart from this attraction, however, everything else points to the fact that unless you are in a position to own your own web server, using installed software is a bad choice. The list of disadvantages attached to setting up your autoresponder in this way is prohibitively long. But suffice to say, this is not the best way of setting up an autoresponder. On the other hand, using a web-based autoresponder system means that you have to pay a monthly subscription. Beyond this downside, web-based systems hold all the aces. For instance, as new technology enters the autoresponder business, the best web-based autoresponder providers are usually at the cutting edge of that technology. As an example, some online systems can not only recognize when your list member opens the mail that you have sent to them, it can even recognize whether they have taken the required action that you asked them to take or not. By using a web-based system, you do not use your own servers to handle all of your incoming and outgoing business-based mail. This cuts the potential strain on your web hosting account to a minimum. More than anything else, online autoresponder organizations are specialists in what they do. The top people in the business do nothing other than provide autoresponder services, so they live or die based on the efficiency and effectiveness of their systems. Consequently, you can always be absolutely certain that their systems are as good as any that are available in the market. There is one final, but extremely vital consideration. Spam has already reared its ugly head in this report on several occasions, but it is a problem that cannot be ignored. For this reason, many ISPs are extremely proactive in protecting their customers against incoming spam email, to the extent that they often filter incoming mail messages before they ever get anywhere near your inbox. This is all well and good as long as the filter is selective, but unfortunately, the majority of them are not. On the contrary, they are extremely aggressive and have a tendency to obliterate incoming email seemingly at random. This presents you as an online marketer who is using email as a proactive marketing tool with a huge problem. If you send an email message to a new prospect that never gets through, this naturally guarantees that the prospect can never become your customer, because as far as they're concerned, you never even sent them the very first email or the special report that they requested. If you are sending email from your own server using software that you purchase, this deliverability factor becomes a huge problem. However, this is also a problem that the vast majority of online autoresponder systems have as well. Some reasonably well-known online systems enjoy deliverability rates as low as 40%. Meaning that 6 out of every 10 outgoing emails that you send get trashed before the intended recipient even knows that you have sent it. In terms of deliverability, there are 2 companies that stand head and shoulders above everyone else on the market. Added to this is the fact that these also happen to be the 2 most widely used and respected autoresponder companies in the online marketing business. Consequently, if you want to get the most out of your email marketing efforts, if you want to make the most money, you must choose either EBOOK or GetResponse as your autoresponder system. Both systems also provide a utility where you can check the spam friendliness of your email messages, which is another invaluable tool which will help improve deliverability. Use almost anyone else, and you are leaving money on the table, which is obviously something you don't want to do. The importance of double opt-in. The final thing to mention about your autoresponder is that you must always set it up so that you operate what is known as a double opt-in system. What this means is that when someone chooses to join your list by completing your subscription form, your autoresponder does not automatically send them the information that they have asked for immediately. Instead, it will send them an email that contains a link that they have to click on to confirm that they do indeed want to be subscribed to your list. It is only if they click on this confirmatory link that they will be added to your outgoing email message sequence and be sent the information that they have requested. Double opt-in is another way of protecting yourself against spurious or malicious spam complaints. Perhaps surprisingly, many people subscribe to mailing lists and then forget all about it. When this happens, you can almost guarantee that a person like this will also be a person who delights in making spam complaints. However, because this individual was asked to double opt-in, both you and your autoresponder company are protected because they hold conclusive proof that the subscriber did indeed ask for information. Go for an immediate sale. When you are initially setting up your autoresponder, you have the option of doing almost anything you want with a new subscriber who has just joined your list. The temptation might be to send them immediately to the page where they can download the free gift that you have offered them. But this is a temptation you should resist. Instead, send them to a sales page, either for the primary product that you are promoting or for any other product or service that is appropriate to this individual visitor. Make sure that there is a slightly inconspicuous "No thanks" link at the bottom of the page that the visitor can click in order to go straight to the free gift download page. But do not highlight this link because you want the visitor to read the sales letter in full. If they do so, a proportion of new subscribers will buy the product you are offering, particularly if you present it as a one-time offer, a special offer on your product that they will never see again. As an example, you might normally charge $47 for a product that you sell, but as a one-time special offer that is only available to new subscribers, you might present this same product to them for $27. Remember that the whole purpose of building your mailing list is to build the business, which in turn means making money. Do not therefore ignore such a gilt-edged opportunity as this. Working your list the Web 2.0 way, as I suggested earlier in this report, the online marketing scene has changed significantly over the last couple of years, primarily because of what is known as Web 2.0. Web 2.0 is not a product or a marketing system as such. On the contrary, it is more to do with attitude and the way that people now approach and use the net. When the net was still in its Web 1.0 phase, the predecessor, it was all about websites which provided you with information. There was little interactivity or ability to network with other people through the net apart from at the most basic level. Web 2.0, however, is all about the internet becoming a socially interactive tool, a resource through which you can network with people all over the world, chat with them, and generally interact. This evolution or revolution from Web 1.0 to 2 Zero has significantly impacted the world of online marketing as well. Nowadays, for example, it is widely recognized that if you build close relationships through the internet with other users, then when you have a product or service to recommend, you do not need to sell the concept to the people with whom you already have connections or friendships. You simply tell them what you have done leaving them to make the decision of whether they want to look at what you have to offer and subsequently invest money in it. This has brought about a significant change in the way you should be using email marketing as well. Whereas there are still thousands of marketers who pump out promotional message after promotional message after promotional message, smarter marketers are moving away from this approach to encompass a more Web 2. Zero-style approach. The essence of Web 2. Zero is that it is all about building relationships and interactivity with fellow net users. You do not build relationships with people by doing nothing other than trying to sell them something every time you send them an email message. This is not to say that you should not try to sell your products and services to anyone on your mailing list. After all, the whole purpose of building your list is to give yourself as many chances of selling to new prospects as possible. Nevertheless, the email marketing scene has shifted significantly over the past year or so. And if therefore you are still doing what you were doing 12 months ago, you're making it very unlikely that you will enjoy the kind of success you want to enjoy. Let us therefore begin to consider how to be a success with email marketing in the Web 2. Zero era by looking at some of the things that I see happening with incoming mail from other marketers every day. Things that you want to avoid doing, like you want to avoid the Black Death. The Black Death approach to email marketing. Do not be tempted to send an email that is nothing more than a promotional message every time you write to your list member. Do this only once or twice, and they will stop opening your mail. Do not use a promotional approach that anyone with half a brain cell to call their own could see through. I've just discovered this fantastic new product that I know you will love. Approach will not work. You do not know the prospect. Therefore, you have no idea whether what you are recommending is what they are looking for or not. Don't shout at your prospect in your headline. Most of them are not imbeciles, and they do not need shouting at in your attempt to convince them to do what you want them to do. Please, please, please do not use pre-written email sales messages that you have downloaded from the affiliate area attached to the product which you are promoting. Do this, and it is almost guaranteed that your prospect is going to receive at least 4 or 5 identical emails, all of which pretend to be hyper-enthusiastic about the product concerned. As a result, they never want to buy anything from you, ever. Want to buy anything from you, ever. Do not be tempted to bandwagon jump when the latest mega product is launched. Do not join the 20 other marketers, each of whom decides to send an email to their prospect to recommend the product and offer a fantastic bonus to encourage them to buy through their link. Why on earth would the prospect buy from you in these circumstances? After all, they could sign up as an affiliate for the product themselves and buy it using their own link. Try to be consistent. Do not recommend a different product every time you send a promotional message. On the contrary, find 4 or 5 products that you really believe in and send 8 or 10 emails in a continual series telling your prospect why they should buy each, one product after the other. If they choose not to buy first product, move on to the second after the first 10 emails recommending the first have elicited no response. Then, promote the third product with 10 emails, the fourth product with 10 emails, and then go back to the very beginning with the very first product. The chances are that your prospect will have a vague recollection that they have seen this product somewhere before. So they might not remember that you promoted it, but the product is at least partially pre-sold. To expand upon this last point, when someone signs up for your mailing list from a site where you are selling a product or service, this is the product or service that you should promote to them from the beginning, although it is likely that they subscribe to your list to get the free gifts on offer rather than to receive additional information about your product. Continuing to promote the same thing helps to establish your consistency. In this respect, for consistency, read professionalism. Because a professional has faith in the product or service, they are recommending and sincerely believe that it will benefit the customer to whom they are promoting it. If you constantly chop and change, jumping from one product to another, the indication is clearly that you have little faith in the product you are promoting, and that your approach to running a business is singularly unprofessional. Consequently, I cannot overemphasize the importance of consistency and professionalism enough. Always promote every individual product with which you are working at least 10 times. If possible, by including a primary benefit of that product in each outgoing email messages you send. Email marketing is relationship marketing. Email marketing in the age of Web 2.0 is all about building relationships with your prospects and then continuing that process when some of those prospects choose to become customers. Now more than ever before, the secret of running a successful online business is to realize that even when they are dealing with other individuals using the most impersonal medium imaginable, i.e., the internet, people still want to deal with people. Perhaps more importantly, people are at their happiest when they are dealing with someone who they like and respect, far more than they would be dealing with someone who was evidently distant and self-interested. This is where the marketer who is promoting again will come unstuck. Just this single fact indicates that they are entirely self-interested and self-absorbed, which makes it extremely unlikely that their list members are ever likely to warm to or respect them. Of course, whilst this is extremely bad news for them, it should represent extremely good news to you because it gives you a significant competitive advantage. If you can see where other people are going wrong, and to be honest, it would not take a genius in this particular example, it becomes considerably easier to avoid making the same mistakes yourself. Let's consider some of the things that you should be doing to build relationships with your list members, whilst also building your business. Information plus a message most of the time. The most fundamental truth about email marketing is that the primary objective of every outgoing message you send should be to get the recipient to open it. If your subscribers open the messages that you sent, it is email marketing, whereas if they don't, it is a complete waste of time. The first trap to avoid falling into is, try not to be boring. This applies to all of the content of every email that you send out, but especially the title headline. As suggested earlier, one of the advantages of using Auber or GetResponse is that you can test how your subscribers are reacting to your emails, and this is a resource that you should use to the full. For example, if your emails are not getting opened, it is a fairly clear indication that you might be boring. Also, try prefacing the headline of your email message with your name. With their inbox possibly stuffed full of spam emails, adding your name to the title headline gives a clear indication of who it is from, which might encourage them to open it. As part of your relationship-building efforts, and also in the interests of providing some variety to your subscribers, I would recommend that you have 3 different types of email message that you sent to them. Firstly, there would be the messages that are already preloaded into your autoresponder account. Secondly, you should include some messages of a type that I call my real world. And thirdly, you should have a regular newsletter. Let's consider each of these different types of email in turn. Regular autoresponder email messages. The format of each of these standard messages that you send out should be a relatively fixed thing. Remembering the importance of consistency, this will enable your subscriber to recognize your style immediately. In this particular type of message, you need to include valuable information about your subject or topic. Given that these messages will be loaded to you autoresponder once and then left to be sent out automatically, you cannot include time-sensitive or latest news type of information in these messages. Hence, you should use the information section of each of your preloaded messages to educate your prospects or bring them valuable information on a relatively general level. For example, if you were mailing to tropical fish enthusiasts, you might include information about the best way of cleaning tanks, the most effective filters, or the foodstuffs that particular breeds of tropical fish prefer. All of these things are relatively fixed and unlikely to change a great deal. So you can add them to mail messages that will go out in 3 or 6 months with relative impunity. However, in every outgoing information email, you must include a product suggestion or recommendation from day one. This should not be a hard sell, and if possible, it is best if the product promotion or recommendation can somehow be woven into the fabric of the rest of the email. If not, a brief I recommend that you should take a look at this at the appropriate point will suffice. Nevertheless, it is important to start promoting products or services from the very beginning, and not to wait until the 5th or 6th outgoing message until you start including a promotional message. This is a mistake that many new email marketers make, which is likely to seriously damage their business. If your prospect receives the first 5 or 6 information only emails before you mention a product that you recommend, then that prospect has already assumed that all of your mail will be information only. Consequently, they will completely ignore the promotional message, or they will unsubscribe from your list because they are somehow shocked that you have the audacity to promote a product to them. You have to make your prospect understand from the very beginning that you are running a business, not a charity shop, and that you are going to promote products and services to them. Sometimes, this will encourage a prospect to unsubscribe from your mailing list almost immediately. But rather than being upset about this or scared of it happening, you should view this as a positive. After all, if something as inoffensive as a product recommendation upsets them, you can be fairly certain that they were never going to buy anything from you in any event. My real-world messages. A mistake that many marketers make is that they are so focused on their business that they forget they have a real life. However, telling your prospects and customers what is happening in your real life is the easiest and quickest way of building a relationship with them. By doing so, you establish that you are a real, three-dimensional person, rather than being some dull, boring individual who thinks about nothing other than making money. Trying to establish a relationship is all about doing whatever you can to get your prospects to like you and think of you as a friend. But imagine how boring it would be if your friends only ever talk to you about work or business. This is exactly the same. Give your prospects and customers a glimpse of your real life, what you do in your spare time, your family, your friends, your hobbies, interests, and the like, because doing so is the quickest way of allowing them to get to know and like the real you. When you go to a fantastic music event, send a mail to your prospects and customers telling them about it. Similarly, Tell them about the sports that you enjoy participating in or your hobbies. Do not, on the other hand, only ever tell them about the fantastic internet marketing conference that you went to or the seminar where Mr. Big in your industry was the guest speaker. It might be relatively interesting, but it is not the real you that is talking to them. You're talking business. And therefore, it is the business you who is communicating with them about conferences and seminars. Let your prospects know that you have a real life in exactly the same way as they do. And when you have difficulties, don't be scared of letting your prospects and customers know. By doing so, you become a real person, someone they can like and empathize with. These real-life email messages should go out to your prospects and customers whenever you have something of genuine interest to talk to them about. Thus, there is no regular set pattern for how often you should send them out, but once a week, in addition to 2 or 3 regular emails on a weekly basis, is perfectly adequate. Do this very regularly, and you can be fairly certain that your prospects and customers will never go anywhere else to do business, because by doing so, they would be letting a friend down. Your regular newsletter. Send out a regular newsletter every week or every month, and use it to keep your list members abreast of all the latest news and developments in your marketplace. You can also include some highlights from your real-life emails, advertising materials from other marketers in your sector or niche, and of course, more product recommendations. For instance, if there has been a mega launch of a product that seems to offer genuine value, you already know that I would caution against bandwagon jumping. However, drawing the product or service to the attention of your prospects or customers in your newsletter is perfectly acceptable, because by doing so, you can provide them with a reasonably objective review, which might help them to make up their mind whether the product is for them or not. You need to know what they want. I know that this might appear self-evident, but it is going to be far easier for you to provide your prospects and customers with exactly what they need if you know what it is that they need. Consequently, I make a point of sending a brief checkbox questionnaire or survey to my list members every 3 to 6 months, asking them the kind of questions that enable me to establish that I am providing products and or information that they want. Doing this serves a multitude of purposes, apart from the obvious one of establishing what your list members want. Firstly, as you acquire additional list members, the group dynamics of the people on your list gradually change. Asking what they want on a regular basis keeps you abreast of these dynamics, which help you to be more responsive to their needs. Secondly, remember how earlier in this report I suggested that the money is in the list does not tell the full story as a descriptive of why you should build a mailing list. This is because the money is not in the list, it is in a responsive list. You can have 500,000 people on your mailing list, and if they are not responsive, then you're not going to generate a great deal of business. Whereas a list of 5,000 people, all of whom are responsive, will generate considerably more money for you. Using questionnaires or surveys allows you to establish exactly who are your most responsive list members. Depending upon how important the information from your survey is, you can do several different things to gauge the responsiveness of individual members. For example, if you simply send out a questionnaire and ask people to answer it, then only the most responsive of your list members will do so. If, however, you introduce a small free gift, then you will increase the response rate, but a proportion of the people who are responding are only doing so because of the gift. The more valuable the gift is, the more true this becomes. Another thing you can do with surveys is ask your list members, if there is anything about the way you run your business that they are not particularly keen on, or anything that could be improved. Perhaps surprisingly, you often get quite a reasonable degree of feedback from this approach, because whilst your list members may not feel too comfortable simply coming straight out to criticize you, if you ask them for their honest opinion, it becomes far easier for them to tell you exactly what they think. Thus, using simple questionnaires in this way enables you to improve your business in yet another different way. A conclusion, I asserted in the introduction that I have heard increasing number of people over the past year or so who have been more than happy to tell anyone within listening distance that email marketing is dead, which, as I hope I have demonstrated, is simply not the case. That being said, however, there can be no doubt that the world of email marketing is changing, and that the approach that worked even as recently as a year ago is probably nowhere near as effective now as it was then. On the other hand, this should come as no surprise to anyone. The internet itself has changed beyond all recognition since Web 2.0 ideas and concepts started to become more mainstream, and these changes are likely to continue to keep happening in the years to come. However, the bottom line truth is that email marketing is still every bit as effective as it ever was, assuming that you understand that now more than ever, email marketing is all about building relationships. Using email to promote your business or your products on a constant, incessant basis is no longer as effective as it might have been in the not-too-distant past, and you therefore have to move with the times by switching your primary focus to relationship building. Do this effectively, and email marketing is every bit as profitable as it ever was. Fail to do this, on the other hand, and you will find that the effectiveness of your email marketing efforts will be severely limited. The internet never stays still for very long, and email marketing is no exception to this general observation. If you have not switched your email marketing focus to relationship building, now is the time to do so, because tomorrow may already be too late.